It's going to be a bumpy night.
I don't have to tell you things are bad. Everybody knows things are bad. It's a depression. Everybody's out of work or scared of losing their job. The dollar buys a nickel's worth. Banks are going bust. Shopkeepers keep a gun under the counter. Punks are running wild in the street, and there's nobody anywhere who seems to know what to do, and there's no end to it. We know the air is unfit to breathe, and our food is unfit to eat. We sit watching our TVs while some local newscaster tells us that today we had 15 homicides and 63 violent crimes, as if that's the way it's supposed to be. We know things are bad, worse than bad. They're crazy. It's like everything everywhere is going crazy, so we don't go out anymore. We sit in the house, and slowly the world we're living in is getting smaller, and all we say is, please, at least leave us alone in our living rooms. Let me have my toaster and my TV and my steel-belted radios, and I won't say anything. Just leave us alone. Well, I'm not going to leave you alone. I want you to get mad.
Wait a minute. You ain't heard nothing yet. Wait a minute, I tell you. You ain't heard nothing.
So, I want you to get up now. I want all of you to get up out of your chairs. I want you to get up right now and go to the window, open it, and stick your head out and yell, I'm as mad as hell, and I'm not going to take this anymore.
I'm mad as hell, I'm not going to take it anymore.
I'm mad as hell, I'm not going to take it anymore.
I'm not going to take it anymore.
Welcome to another exciting David Pollack Show. I'm fresh from vacation. I was in the Florida Keys for spring break with the kids. Weather was okay, but hey, when you're out on a boat and you're in the tropics somewhere, it doesn't matter what the weather is. It's better than being somewhere else, right? So I'm back. I'm refreshed, and I'm excited to be with you guys tonight. But man, the weekend wasn't just exciting for me on vacation. The weekend looked like it was pretty exciting for America. It seems that Republicans betrayed their voters, and with that, the country yet again, passing a $1.2 trillion, trillion with a T, omnibus bill. This was done using more Democrat support than Republican support. A lot of Republicans are upset by this. And there was a lot of talk about whether or not they should even do this. And there was people warned about it, but they did it anyway. So a lot of people are upset with that. I'm going to bring you all kinds of video on that soon. We're going to have a couple of exciting guests for you tonight as well. We have former Congressman George Santos joining us. He just made a huge announcement in the wake of this $1.2 trillion omnibus bill. And Dan Bongino made quite the prediction. And one of our own writers, my good friend Heather over at the DC Patriot, wrote about it. And we're going to have her on later to talk about Dan Bongino's interesting theory about the retirement in the Republican Party. So a very exciting show tonight. And don't forget to stick around to the end, guys. Very important that you stick around to the end tonight, because I have a very big announcement for my radio audience. My radio and audience is going to want to stick around for this big announcement. And with that, let's just get right into it. So as I mentioned, $1.2 trillion omnibus bill. Now, they didn't just get to it right out of the gate. Of course, you guys might remember this 3-day rule to allow the voters enough time and allow the members of Congress enough time to read the bill, because in the past, under Nancy Pelosi's reign, they would just put the bill up and pass it right away. You had to pass the bill before we can see what's in it. Well, first they suspend the 3-day rule. Man, guys, I have so much to talk about tonight about how we got here. But I just want to bring you this video real quick. This is Thomas Massie talking about what went into just even having the opportunity to pass this bill. Check it out.
Today, we're setting a dangerous precedent. We're suspending the 3-day rule so that our constituents don't have time to see what's in this bill, but we know a few things that are in it. We know it spends too much money. We know it's got money to groom our children down to ages of 12 into being trans. We know it's got funding for facilities that do late-term abortions. Why would Republicans vote for that? Because it's got a dangerous cocktail that the swamp has always served. And we're drunk on it today. What is that cocktail? Earmarks and budget gimmicks with a chaser of the fumes from DCA.
Thomas Massey gets it. They suspend the 3-day rule to not even allow people the time to read what's in this bill. And he's right. The fumes from the jets at DCA, that's Reagan Airport in Washington, D.C., because as all the congressmen run back home to their districts, I don't even know if you can call them home anymore. Most of these guys now love the swamp much more in their districts, right? They run back home, and do they have to answer for this stuff? No. They go to Washington and do whatever they want. But here's the thing. This isn't the first time that these Republicans that we thought once we put the majority have abandoned us, have just said, we don't care what you think. We're going to do what we want to do anyway. And I'm going to list those things for you in a second. But I want you to hear from the swamp itself, right? Because there are people standing up against this. Don't get me wrong. There was, I think, 100 and something Republicans that voted for it. There were a lot of Republicans that voted against it, one of them being Corey Mills from CD7. That's my congressman. A lot of good Republicans voted against it. But there's still enough rhinos to work with enough Democrats. This is basically a Democrat piece of legislation. But I want you to hear from one of the rhinos about the justification for this bill. Check it out.
Congressman Max Miller here from Ohio 7, and I know a lot of you are going to have a lot of questions about today's spending bill, but I want to go over a lot of the disinformation that a lot of my colleagues on my side of the aisle are talking about. I want to be clear. If you shut down the government, you don't shut down the border. That is nonsense talk. That doesn't make any sense. Ask yourself.
Hold on. I'm gonna stop it there real quick. If you shut down, I'm gonna explain things to you because you're too stupid to understand it on your own. So let me explain it to you, stupid voters. If we shut down the government, that's not shutting down the border. This is what he's claiming. He's claiming that we're so stupid that we just don't understand. Because we're calling to shut it down because we want the border secured. We want the leverage of the budget being used to secure the border. This guy is making it seem like we don't understand that shut down the government doesn't mean shutting the border down. Anyway, there's more.
Ask yourself this quick question. Would you go to work every single day and not get paid, yet you know you have to pay your utilities, your mortgage, your car note? I'm going to go ahead and say 9 out of 10 people, maybe even 10 out of 10 would say no. Why would we put our men and women at the border in the same position and our military men and women in that same position as I had just described? It's irresponsible and reckless, and it's not fiscally responsible.
This guy thinks that we're so stupid that when we say we want to shut down the government to secure the border, that we want our soldiers and our people working at the border to have to work without pay. Guess what? They can pass an appropriation, or they can even rule that these people can be paid even during the shutdown or guarantee pay after the appropriations are released. They can do that, but they're lying to you. They want to think you're so stupid that this is just the way it is. Let's listen to more.
Throughout this piece of legislation, we have gotten H.R. 2 provisions in, we have increased military pay to 5.2%, and we have taken out DEI initiatives throughout our country. This bill isn't perfect. It's never going to be a huge win. Both sides are going to say they won. Both sides are going to say that they lost. But what I can tell you is there is no other alternative to where we are today by the same 15 or 20 people who put us in this position, Ohio 7. God bless you, and I'll see you this weekend.
Max Miller. First of all, shirt's too tight. Second of all, he doesn't seem convincing just because he's walking around the office seeing all folksy. And third, he's lying to you. And he thinks you're stupid enough to believe it. Well, we can't shut down the government. The very people you want to secure the border wouldn't get paid. Hey, Max, have you actually talked to the people at the border? This open border, they want this government shut down in order to fix this border. You guys gave away the last piece of leverage that you were going to have to force the Senate Republicans and the Senate Democrats to force Joe Biden to take up H.R. 2 to actually secure the border. Instead, Joe Biden and the Democrats now are going to run around telling people that they have to now pass that garbage legislation that had $65 billion to Ukraine and like $20 billion for the border. But this is what they think. They think you're so stupid that you'll just, oh, I didn't see it that way. Thanks, Max Miller. I totally believe you. Do you? I don't. But this is what they've done to us from the very beginning. Remember when they promised a balanced budget? We don't got one of those. Do you remember when they promised a debt ceiling? They eliminated it. Republicans eliminated it. Remember when they talked about decreasing spending to pre-COVID levels? This doesn't do anything near that. Remember when they promised to pass these smaller bills? Johnson was calling them minibus bills. And then they even talked about single subject spending bills. The very single subject spending bills that we fired Kevin McCarthy for. This is even worse. You've got nothing, Republicans. You've got nothing for voting these people in. But it's not all of them. It's important to be clear. It is not all of them. The new Republicans, the America First Republicans, they voted against this, but they're in the minority of the Republican Party. The Republican Party is not the party of Trump. This Republican Party is the Republican Party of Nikki Haley, of Ron DeSantis, of pissed off Chris Christie, that of the Bushes. That's the Republican Party that's still in Washington, D.C., voting for this garbage, voting for Democrats, and then acting like you're an idiot and don't understand what they're voting for, and you don't even know what you want. This has to stop, and I'm hopeful that it does stop come November. But every single Republican, and I'll put up a list. I'll put up a list at the DC Patriot. I'll put up a list on my social media at the Pollock Show on Twitter. I'll put up a list of all of the Republicans that voted for this bill, and I'm calling on you, Republicans, in wherever districts these people are from, primary them. Primary all rhinos. Primary any quote-unquote Republican that thinks you're so stupid that they can go along with this bill and keep our border wide open while Americans are being killed by illegal aliens. Illegal aliens, not migrants. Illegal aliens. I'll say it 5 more times. Illegal alien, illegal alien, illegal alien. They're not migrants. Get it out of your head. They're lying to you. I'm sick of being lied to. You should be sick of being lied to. And let's hear from some Republicans that are sick of being lied to as well. Here's my good friend, Ali Legg. I call her Ali Leger. She's going to use that name eventually. But look, this voice right here, this is America. This is what Americans feel like, not these phony Republican Max Millers. Check it out.
So at 2:18 this morning, the U.S. Senate passed the $1.2 trillion tax dollar spending bill. Guys, this is exhausting. Our government no longer represents the people, those who have given consent to be governed, and they are all operating outside of their lane. They're operating outside of the consent of the people. They vie for protections for criminal aliens and not for Americans. They abandon civilians in foreign countries that they have intentionally created chaos in. They spend our hard-earned money on projects that are outside of their constitutional authority. They have abandoned their oaths of office, which is the same oath our military members take. Their job is to uphold and defend the U.S. Constitution, which codifies our natural God-given rights. They have no honor, they have no integrity, and they have no valor. They hide behind well-meaning words, forging them to mean what they want them to mean, making us fight amongst ourselves, divide and conquer, remember?
She's right. She's right. This is what us on the real world and Main Street what have you think about all of this. We don't buy Max Miller's lies. And what about those Republicans who stood up to these rhinos, these establishment Republicans? And yes, I'm calling them rhinos. I've corrected myself in the past, by the way, and I said these aren't rhinos, these are Republicans. We call them rhinos, but they're Republicans. That was true. But we have a new Republican Party now. This is Donald Trump's Republican Party. This is the America First Republican Party. This is the Republican Party that thinks this establishment is icky, swampy, and rhino-y and has to go. So when I call them rhinos, maybe I should have called them old school Republicans. Maybe they are the GOP because they're the grand old party. They're the grand old Republicans, the Republicans that we're getting rid of. So they're not rhinos. Well, no, let me clarify. So they're rhinos, but because they don't fit into the new Republican Party. They're not Republicans. These people are uni-party Democrat Washingtonians. That's what they are. They're Washingtonians. They don't represent people. They're Washingtonians. I'm going to use that for now on. Forget rhinos because Democrats do it. Republicans do it. They're Washingtonians. They care more about the Washington establishment than they do about you. Now, when you have people who stand up and fight these Washingtonians, what do? They expel them. Now, here's George Santos, which we're going to talk about later. Big announcement from George Santos coming on the show here very soon. Here's George Santos warning people about this bill. Check it out.
Any member of the Republican conference who votes for this omnibus bill going to the floor is reneging on the commitment to America and therefore has lied to each and every one of you who donated, volunteered, and support them for their candidacies. Make sure, Americans, make sure, Republican base, you hold each and every one of them accountable. Our country is going to crap, and we are going to continue to spend this kind of money and pass these bills full of pork and corruption in them to pay back lobbyists who fund the lifestyles and the lavish dinners of these politicians. Wake up, America. This is not a cry of political rhetoric. This is a cry of survival for this country. Stop them at all costs. Call them, hound them down, and hold them accountable at the ballot if they vote for this absolutely insane and absolutely irresponsible package.
He's right. And they did. So what are we going to do about it? I mean, this is just, I don't even know, guys. I don't even know anymore, right? Because I've complained about this. I've yelled about it. George Santos is right. Allie Legg is right. Marjorie Taylor Greene, by the way, has now filed a motion to vacate Speaker Johnson. Now, this motion isn't privileged, so it's not being taken up yet. There's a lot of people who are upset with her, who think that if we replace Johnson, we'll get a Speaker, Hakeem Jeffries. So now nothing's been done. She said in an interview with Maria Bartiromo, she said that I filed it saying that Speaker Johnson isn't acceptable any longer, but she didn't put a time frame on when he should be removed. Look, I think at this point, we'd all look back on Kevin McCarthy fondly, considering what Michael Johnson has done making deal with Democrats. Look, guys, there's really only one way to stop this, and really we have to start supporting America First Republicans, and that's it. But we might have a Speaker Hakeem Jeffries anyway, and we're going to talk about that here after the break because there's been a lot of retirements, and they're retiring because I think they're retiring because they would rather throw this country under the bus than let Donald Trump be president. But there's a lot of theories. We are going to be joined by Heather here in just a second, but we're going to take a quick break. And so don't go anywhere. Dave Pollack Show. We'll be right back.
Hello, Patriots, listen up. It's time to wake up and smell the freedom. Beard Vet Coffee is here to fuel your American spirit. This isn't just coffee. It's a battle cry in a cup, a declaration of love for the land of the free and the home of the brave. Crafted by the hands of those who've walked the walk, talked the talk, and, grown the damn beard. Vet-founded, vet-focused, and beard-operated. This is coffee with a mission, a purpose, and a testament to the unyielding American spirit. It's a tribute to the tireless resolve that courses through the veins of our great nation. This is the taste of victory, the flavor of freedom, the coffee that stands as firm as our belief in America's destiny to lead and never to kneel. Beard Vet Coffee is more than a brand. It's a legacy steeped in the principles that make America great. It's for those who stand with pride under the stars and stripes, who uphold the values that light the torch of liberty for the world to see. So, are you ready to supercharge your day the American way? Beard Vet Coffee is not just a choice. It's a declaration of independence from mediocre mornings. Bold, brave, unbound. Brewed for the American patriot. Beard Vet Coffee. Make your mornings great again.
Welcome back to the David Pollack Show. We're talking about ultimate betrayal of Congress and how they just keep screwing us. And one of the other ways that the House Republicans decided that they just don't care about anything really that has to do with loyalty to Republicans, there have now been retirements. Republicans in the very narrow majority that we have are now retiring. Why? Why are they retiring? Interesting theories about why they're retiring, in addition, of course, to what we talked about before, in addition to basically giving you nothing they promised to give you. Now they're just going to leave and give Democrats the majority. That's what they think of you, America. Well, a good friend of ours over at the DC Patriot and contributor, Heather, I call her Heather because that's what I met her on Twitter. I don't even Heather McIssac is joining us today because she just wrote a fantastic article. Basically, she's watching Dan Bongino, and I'll let her tell the story. She's watching Dan Bongino, and she's like, hey, this is a really interesting theory, and she wrote about it. It's in the DC Patriot. Dan Bongino liked it so much, he shared it. Heather, welcome to David Pollack Show. Tell everybody.
David.
Tell
Hi,
everybody.
Guys. Yeah. So I was
what happened?
I was tuning in to the Dan Bongino show by Dan Bongino, and there was a segment that really, really caught my attention. And it was basically a potential plan laid out of the reasoning behind why so many Republicans are stepping away at a time that we have such a slim majority. How people in the conservative base and sector, our heads are spinning. Why would this be happening? It doesn't make sense. We wanted a red wave back in 2022 that we didn't get. And now we have a very slim majority and they're all just walking away. And the theory behind it, it's an interesting one, and it's a little bit plausible. It's kind of like everything needs to line up in order for this to come to fruition, right? So where this is going is the fact that RFK is essentially doing much better in the polls. And if he continues this lead, polling in the high 20% to 30% like he's at come election time, there could be a very real chance that neither one of the top candidates, Biden or Trump, are able to secure their 270 needed electoral college vote. And that's kind of where this comes into play. If they don't have the 270 minimum electoral vote, what happens? It goes to Congress. When it goes to Congress, it goes right back to the states. If you have a slim majority and you are picking people off, who's going to be making the decision come November 2024?
So the theory is that these people are retiring then, so they can leave it to the Democrats to make that decision?
Essentially, the way Dan Bongino kind of phrased it is that these Republicans, well, I'm going to call them rhinos, because in my opinion, that's what they are. And if they are that against Trump, they don't have to be the bad guy by stepping down now, but they take themselves completely out of the equation for making a decision in November 2024. And it's interesting because Ken Buck, the one that has started the domino effect, he's a Republican representative from Colorado. Colorado is also the state that first tried to remove Trump from the ballot. And that should not be a forgotten point, because it's indicating in the polls that Trump is, depending on which polls you want to look at, but he is doing far, far better than either of the candidates. But RFK is sneaking up in there, and they're seeing that. So what a perfect state to set the stage to see if this could be a possibility. The other interesting thing is the next representative is from Wisconsin, which is another state that could be considered a battleground state because they flip-flop over the course of the last 30 years with how they voted. And when Ken Buck initially came out with his announcement, November of 2023, he didn't really give a whole lot of reasons, but he did say, I'm not going to be the only one. And the next 3 is going to shock everybody. So the Wisconsin representative that recently announced his departure, which is coming in April, there's 2 more, according to what Buck said. And there's rumors that there could be up to 5 total leaving.
Are these all Republicans that the rumors are?
Mm-hmm.
Man,
Ken Buck started it. Ken Buck even said it's the next 3 conservatives that are going to leave that are going to shock you guys. And it was odd because it took a while for Ken Buck to come up with, why are you leaving Congress? And what he's saying is he no longer wants to be a part of the GOP within Congress. But he would like to still stay in politics, but what he wants to do is focusing on how the candidates are picked. He's not happy with Trump. He's not happy with Biden. So he wants to start working with organizations that solidify, in his opinion, a better candidate. It's just, if that was the case, why did he start this process now when we're, six months to an election? If that was really the true driving force.
Well, Anna Paulina Luna had who I love her name, by the way, Anna Paulina Luna. But she put out a tweet, and she's an awesome congresswoman out of Florida. She came up. She's one of these America First Republicans. Came up.
Oh, I love her.
Corey
and I'm
Mills
so happy
and some of these
she's
other
in.
people in that class. She said these resignations from Congress are perfectly timed, not by chance. It's by design to cripple the majority. The swamp is real. If you're tired of the same old, stop voting for people who are part of the problem. And it's interesting. So Bongino and you have this theory that potentially this is a play to let it go to Congress and have them pick somebody other than Trump or Biden, potentially. Anna Paulina Luna is suggesting that this is a swamp issue. The question becomes, maybe it's something far more nefarious in a way. There are a lot of Republicans, Nikki Haley's a perfect example. There's a lot of Republicans that hate Donald Trump and hate anybody who supports Donald Trump. And then Nikki Haley made it clear, it's her own basket of deplorables moment when the way she made it. And even Ron DeSantis, to some extent, such disdain, especially his people. Like on social media, his people were some of the biggest attackers of MAGA. I think anywhere. And all of us experienced that. So the interesting thing is, I think there's an anti-Trump movement in the Republican Party, a resentment towards not just Republicans, but the Republicans that support him. And I think these resignations are really an example of, I'm taking my ball and I'm going home. If this is the Republican Party, you can have it. And rather than leaving the Republican Party, I think they're just going to sabotage it. Remember John McCain's thumbs down moment?
Yeah.
He knew Obamacare was awful for America, but his hatred for Trump and Trump supporters were greater than his sense of duty to this country. And as a result, imagine that, John McCain, right?
I know. Yeah.
And as a result, he thumbs down what could have led to actual health care for Americans. Instead, what does he do? He pokes Trump in the eye and screws all of America, right?
100%.
So I think that's what my theory, the David Pollock theory, is that this is what these Republicans are doing. They would rather us lose the House, have a Speaker Hakeem Jeffries, and let Biden do whatever he needs to do to protect elections, right? Right? Remember what they wanted to do was they had a bill that they wanted to protect elections and basically take it away from the states and have federal election laws for all the states. It wouldn't shock me.
But Trump's the dictator.
Right,
but Trump's the dictator.
It wouldn't shock me. It wouldn't shock any of our listeners or our viewers if Republicans were willing to let Democrats rig elections in order to keep Donald Trump from becoming president. And I think that's really what's at the heart of all of this. I think the Republicans want to sabotage Donald Trump. And if that means, and to your point, maybe they don't know, maybe no candidate gets to 270, but maybe it is RFK, but it doesn't have to be. It could be Nikki Haley. It could be Ron DeSantis. It could be anybody they choose to nominate to become president. So it gets very, very interesting on what happens when this moves forward. And so it is something definitely to keep an eye on. I encourage everybody to go to the DCPatriot.com and read this article. It's a fantastic article. And what's so cool about it is you're able to go and take something Dan Bongino was talking about, really put some analysis on it, and then he showed you love about it, right? He says, yes, this is great. He shares it. I mean, this is what's so cool about what we're able to do here in social media world and the DC Patriots, just lift each other up and kind of share this information because it's important for us to pay attention. Now, let me ask you, Heather. Anna Paulina Luna says we need to basically stop voting for the same old people who are part of the problem. Can we save this Republican Party?
Oof. Yes, I'm going to say yes because I have to say yes. I have to believe that we can. I can't, as a veteran, as somebody that sacrificed a ton of holidays and a ton of time with my family and events and everything serving my nation, which I was very grateful and honored to do, that sacrifice can't be for nothing. The 13 soldiers in Afghanistan that were killed, that their sacrifice can't be for anything. So regardless of what the reality is, I have to say yes because I have to believe that. And I think the only way that happens is by ensuring the candidates are vetted. The candidates need to be vetted and they need to be vetted better because what is coming up on the ballot are all talk, no walk. They'll tell us what they want to hear, but they don't actually lead decisively like we expect them to. And that's why I believe there's so much discombobulation within the House GOP because so many people were voted in and are not carrying out what they promised to their constituents and their country. And you have the people like Matt Gaetz, Anna Paulina Luna, that is a very fun name to say, Corey Mills. You have all these who are all from Florida. Great people, but they're calling them out because they need to be. And I think that this upsets the establishment, the uniparty mentality, because they don't like that. They don't want to be called out. They want to do what they want to do. So I think the only way to really move forward is to ensure that these candidates are 100% vetted. They need to dig deeper. They need to really, if you're going to give somebody your stamp of approval, you better stake your country on it because that's where we're at.
Yeah, it'll be really interesting to see how the new GOP, under this new Trump selected leadership, if they're able to get behind more America First candidates, because like you said, that's going to be the secret is which party is basically getting behind these candidates. Is the big money going to continue to go to these establishment type candidates, or is the big money going to follow endorsements towards non-establishment candidates? That's going to be the ultimate test because that's how we get the majority that this country is demanding. And
I think having Laura Trump in as the RNC co-chair is crucial because up until now, the RNC has been useless to us and hasn't done anything to help anybody in the conservative movement, party, whatever you want to call it. And I think having Laura Trump at the helm is going to push forward the issues and focus on the things that we actually need to focus on. I think getting rid of Rana the Rhino was a fantastic idea.
Yeah, I agree. Well, we'll see what happens. Like I said, I'm hopeful. I have to remain optimistic. But in the short term, if you guys want to do some deep thinking, you can go to DCPatriot.com. Check out Could Congress Ultimately Decide the Presidential Election of 2024? Check out the rest of the work from Heather over there at the DCPatriot.com. Follow her at Liberty Valkyrie over on X. Anywhere else you want people to find you? Actually, yes, they can find you at, well, let's let you tell them. Tell everybody everything you're working on. Veterans for Trump, the website, DC Patriot, right? You're everywhere. Tell everyone where they can find you. And all the stuff you're working on.
I'm doing a few things. My main account is here on X, so Liberty Valkyrie. I am also part of Veterans for America First, sometimes known as Veterans for Trump, but we're trying to move towards the mission, which is America First. And I have recently requested to come to Florida, the state that I live. I was formerly the director of operations for Georgia, which I loved. The travel just kind of got to the point that I didn't feel like I was being great at my mission and carrying it out. So I requested to the big dog and said, can I work with David and Allie in Florida? You can take my title. It's and so that's in the works of exactly what position I'm going to have. But to me, it was worth sacrificing to come and do the work just where I could be more effective. I'm talking with Miss Allie Legg about Moms for America, and that is very exciting. And I work with Scott Pressler with Early Vote Action to get people registered, get them excited to get registered. I've set up about 4 events, and we're just cranking them out to get people excited and registered to vote and just honing in on the fact that every vote matters.
Awesome. Well, you're awesome. You've been awesome since I met you over on X and now into the real world of our shows and the website. And we absolutely love you over at the DC Patriot. Your articles are fantastic. There's a new one out today, guys. So go check out the DC Patriot. Check out everything by Heather McIssac over there. I'm always going to call you Heather. It's just.
That's fine.
It's saved in my phone. It's Heather. So thank you so much for joining. And we look forward to having you on again to talk about the next exciting article.
Excellent. Thank you, David, for having me.
Always. We'll see you soon.
Right.
All right, guys, we're going to take a quick break. And speaking of taking your ball and going home, big news over the weekend. George Santos so incredibly upset with the Republican Party voting for this $1.2 trillion mega bus bill that he's leaving the Republican Party. He's out. And he's going to run as an independent for New York's 1. And so we're going to talk to George Santos about that coming up here right after the break. So don't go anywhere. David Pollack Show will be right back.
Hey friends, David Pollack here. If you're craving the best soft serve ice cream around, Topper's Creamery's got you covered. Serving the Apopka community for over a decade, Toppers is known for the finest old-fashioned custard-style soft-serve ice cream in a variety of flavors, from their French vanilla bean to exciting specials like German chocolate cake. But the experience doesn't end there. Be sure to grab a fresh baked waffle cone or a sundae topped with my favorite, the fresh baked brownies. They even offer pup cups for your four-legged friends. So hurry in to Topper's Creamery in Apopka, South 512 Hunt Club Road. Make sure to tell them David sent you.
With today's economic environment, it's never been more important to secure your hard-earned wealth for you and your family's future. FinSec Life works to offer industry-leading customer service to help successful individuals and businesses protect their wealth. Whether it's a business succession plan, estate liquidity, or a variety of life and long-term care policies, FinSec Life can help deliver peace of mind, knowing that if something happens, you or your company is taken care of. Visit finseclife.com. That's FINSEC life.com. Securities offered through Valmark Security Inc., member FINRA and SIPC. Investment advisory services offered through Valmark Advisors Inc., an SEC-registered investment advisor. FinSec Life is a separate entity from Valmark Securities Inc. and Valmark Advisors Inc.
Business owners, are you sick of dealing with those big-name telecommunications companies that leave you frustrated with terrible customer service and then lock you into long-term contracts? That's why I want to introduce you to my friends over at Public Telephone Company. They are an industry-leading VoIP provider offering all-in-one business communication solutions that are completely contract-free with competitive pricing. But perhaps the best part, they're all about supporting their customers with US-based customer service, and they're always willing to go the extra mile. Don't let your phone company drive you mad. Call Public Telephone Company today at 877-314-4080 or visit them at publictelephonecompany.com. That's publictelephonecompany.com.
Welcome back to the David Pollack Show. As promised, joining me now is none other then George Santos, Representative George Santos. Can I call you a frequent guest of the David Pollock Show at this point?
Absolutely. I could be your commentator at large if you want me to.
Done. Commentate. You're one of my favorite guests because you're not only are you honest, but you're a ton of fun. You know all the dirt from Washington. You don't owe them anything. So when all this garbage happens, I know I can trust you to give me the no BS down low about what's going on. And tonight we're talking about, I think what I'm calling the ultimate betrayal from Speaker Johnson. I mean, we fired Kevin McCarthy for less. And now here we are, an omnibus bill, nonetheless, with Democrats, some Republicans, and we'll talk about them too. But here we are. What do you think, George Santos? I saw your video before they passed a bill warning everybody. Now they passed the bill. And we're going to talk about what you've resolved to do as a result. But I want to get your take on the bill first.
Well, look, I'm going to start off with this. This topic is so loaded. I don't usually do this, but I'm actually going to have a beer as we do this. So to all you people who like beer, whatever it is that you got to do, I'm drinking an actual beer right now because... Excuse me. It's been a long day. So
wait a minute. What kind of beer was that? That wasn't.
This is not baby piss Bud Light. This is Conservative Dad's ultra right beer. It's actually
nice.
So in case before we get into this, it's the same beer from this very controversial calendar.
I remember the calendar. Yes.
Anyway,
I have to try that beer. You know, I've seen a lot of people drinking it. They say it's very good. And if I'm going to drink beer, it needs to be right beer, not woke beer. So I kind of like it.
This will not make you grow boobies, guys.
Nice.
All right. Anyway, so
Congress.
Now let's get back.
Speaking of boobs, let's talk about Washington.
Speaking of estrogen. Yeah. All right. No, seriously. Okay. As far as lack of testosterone and testicular fortitude goes, Washington, D.C. is the all-time champion. But let's unpack this. You say it's a betrayal. I say it's a breach of contract. Now, you're an attorney, so you're a lot smarter than I am in this stuff. But last I recall, we all campaigned in 22 with a little pamphlet, a handheld pamphlet, a palm card that was called The Contract with America. The commitment to America essentially outlined that we would do no more omnibus spending bills, that we would do individual spending bills in appropriations, and that we would run away from runaway spending, and that we would reduce Nancy Pelosi spendings and back to pre-COVID era spendings. The reality is we've reneged and breached contract on all three of those promises on the commitment to America. On top of that, we are now in session 2 of the 118th Congress, and the only 2 accomplishments that this Congress has been to expel me, vacate Speaker McCarthy, and the third one was to pass Chuck Schumer's 2-part omnibus spending bills. So 3 accomplishments of the Republican majority, and quite frankly, all 3 of them weakened the Republican majority, from expelling me to vacating the Speaker and to also passing Chuck Schumer's Senate bill on the House floor. Now, I do understand Senator Schumer is a former House member and he holds privileges on the House floor, but that doesn't mean he gets to author bills for the House. As far as Speaker Johnson goes, let's unpack this. I don't want to solely fall all the blame on Speaker Johnson, David, because it's easy to scapegoat somebody. But the reality is he's the boogeyman because he's front-facing man. And yes, I agree. We did vacate Speaker McCarthy for a whole lot less, quite frankly, for 1 CR. Right? Speaker Johnson has had the privilege of a couple of CRs and now 2 minibuses who make up a whole omnibus. He breached, obviously, the 72-hour rule. He breached the omnibus commitment. All of those things were breached. We understand. Now, here's who we should really be looking at. We should be looking at the cardinals of appropriations. These are people that really don't want you to know who they are. They don't want the base to know what power they have. And a lot of people struggle to understand the amount of power these people have. And they say they can't be more powerful than we the people. Well, let me make this very clear, David. They just prove that they are far more powerful than we the people. We are millions against them. And they're a dozen people. We're talking about people like Congresswoman Kay Granger, who's the chairwoman of the Appropriations Committee. She's the most powerful appropriator in Washington, D.C., followed by her ranking member, Congresswoman Rosa DeLauro from Connecticut. These are two very large powerhouse appropriators in D.C. They're the ones in bed with the lobbyists. They're the ones taking all the steak dinners and fancy trips with lobbying groups to pass forward their, how can I say, priorities instead of the American people's priorities. But then there's cardinals of appropriations, like members Congressman Mario Diaz-Balart and Carlo Jimenez, who are both from the great state of Florida. So Floridians, wake up if you're listening to this. These are two members who are posers as Trump supporters, as MAGA, America First conservatives in our party, who are actually your party, because they are absolutely betraying you. These are the people with that power who just betrayed you with $1.25 trillion down the throat of the American people, tacking that to a already runaway debt bill of $34 trillion. Now you can call it 35, 36 trillion within the next couple of months. So that's kind of unpacking this omnibus bill.
Well, George, and the thing is, you talk about the power, that they have versus the people have. It's really the power that the GOP establishment has, because you talk about Diaz-Balart, a family of representatives, right? I mean, these are political bloodlines. Same thing with the Bushes, and you have all these political lineages and bloodlines. you need a couple of those, but you have all these bloodlines and lineages that seem to get priority over what the people actually want, and they put their money, they put their power. The lobbies put their money and their power. The power is with the purse, obviously. And I think if we're going to fix any of this, we're going to have to start finding money that can go toe-to-toe with the money of the GOP establishment, or replace the GOP establishment. I think it's much more likely we find money to go toe-to-toe with them versus replacing them, considering how the GOP establishment has their friends on the left. They're making up the uni party, the Washingtonians, I'm calling them. And I don't know if they can be defeated through just replacement cycles. I think you're going to have to beat them monetarily and find conservative causes that have money. I don't know. But this is my problem now, apparently, because over the weekend, you posted a tweet after this omnibus, minibus. I love how they make up all these names, by the way, just to confuse people. They think we're stupid, and so they just use a bunch of terms we don't understand.
Well, minibus is to make it seem like it's less than of omnibus, but in reality, it's a two-part omnibus formed by two minibuses. You're still getting railroaded, no matter what.
You're still getting ripped off, all right? It's a rip-off, Bill. Let's just call it that. But now this is my problem now, because over the weekend, you've said, you know what? I'm taking my ball and I'm going home. You can have this dumpster fire of a party. I'm running as an independent for New York 1. What? Can you talk about that?
Yeah, absolutely. So here's the deal. I want to make sure that people understand. I'm very much a conservative, and the current approach of the Republican Party is not conservative enough for me. Let's make this very clear. I'm a gay man. Right. And I've been a lifelong registered Republican. And I realized that this year I can say officially, as of July 22nd, that I have been a registered Republican at least for half of my life, because I'll be 36 and I was 18 when I registered. So when you think about that, it puts a lot in perspective. For a half of my existence on this planet, I have dedicated to this party. And for a half of my life, I can say that I have been disappointed. And I get more and more disenfranchised by the day, but it's not the party. It's the people that are in the party. So I'm happy to see Laura Trump coming in as co-chair, because I don't trust the chair, because that is Ronna Romney McDaniel's personal pick to succeed her. So I'm happy to see Laura Trump be there in the trenches for us, because I trust Laura Trump. I trust her honesty, her integrity, and her mission for an America First Republican Party. The problem is you need a clean house. Just 60 terminations is not enough. Just renewing and changing some contracts is not enough. It's literally getting every single player out of the RNC. The reason I walked away from the Republican Party in my race is not to be taken as a signal that to people to walk away from the Republican Party. It is the only way I can still be a conservative voice, forcing myself into this race, because as a Republican, I face challenges by party bosses and also by the political Republican establishment here on Long Island in New York that would inhibit me to even access the ballot. Now I can access the ballot. And guess what? If the Republicans really care about this seat, Nick LaLota would step aside and let me run as the only alternative to the Democrats because I can win the seat. Now, if he chooses to stay arrogantly, we will split the ticket and we will lose the seat. And I'm willing to make that sacrifice to prove a point, because it's either we send people who are truly conservatives and who are going to fight for America First values, or we send no one at all.
Yeah, it's interesting because when I thought I was going to have you on the show before the weekend to talk about this race, the New York 1 race, and I was going to celebrate the fact that you're primarying these rhinos. This is a different strategy. Instead of primarying the rhinos, you're really going to run a race. I don't want to say it's a spoiler.
It is,
but it's a spoiler.
It doesn't
right?
have to be a spoiler race, right? It doesn't have to be.
So then I guess, why not beat them in the primary? Why not primary these rhinos versus leaving the party to them? Why don't you take the party back? You've shown you were able to do it without them before. You can certainly do it again.
That's a great question. Well, the reality is it's ballot access. New York State isn't like Florida where you can pay to access the ballot. You need to collect signatures, and then the party comes and plays lawfare with you to kick you off the ballot. On top of that, the Republicans control jobs in the counties and in the towns, and they've sent out their bat signal of, we will terminate anybody who signs this petition, and it's public record. So the amount of people who had already signed and started calling, freaking out, like, oh my God, I heard I can lose my job. Can you cross my name out? I said, you know what? This is already becoming a task within a monumental task. I'm not doing this. I'm not screwing people over. I don't want to see people lose their livelihoods because of people. These are people working in sanitation. These are people working in the clerk's office. These are regular blue collar, everyday Americans who keep my district afloat going. So you can buy a house and register, so you can go get a CO for a garage repair, or so you can go ahead and, have your garbage collected and your streets policed. These are the blood and life of NY1. Why would I want to hurt them? I want to represent them. So I said, you know what? Let's make it easy. I'll go as an independent, because then they can't hold that against nobody's head. And I can collect signatures from, the 30 somewhat thousand independents. And quite frankly, even some conservative Democrats that we have a lot on Long Island that are still registered Democrats because they like to be able to pick the least of the worst options in the Democrat primaries. They can come ahead and sign my petitions. Now, and Republicans that are not afraid to sign my petition can sign my petition. Essentially, it opens a door to everybody.
So then, so this would be this November. You'll be on the ballot as an independent. What is that process? Do you just have to refile and then you're automatically on the ballot? Do you have to have a primary? What does it look like?
So I've already sent in the paperwork to refile. It should be updated in due time, I guess, throughout the week. And then it's all about making sure that I can collect those signatures from the independent voters, from the Democrats, from the Republicans who are unafraid. We'll put up the numbers and we'll get on the ballot and see these boys in November. No need for a primary.
If they want to help you accomplish that task, where can they go to support you?
They can go to Santos, FORcongress.com. The website should be live tomorrow, so stay tuned for that. So y'all will be the first to see all the new details as an independent candidate. And remembering that I am not leaving the GOP. The GOP has essentially become too fiscally liberal for me, because at the end of the day, the reason I'm a Republican is because I'm a fiscal conservative, not because I like the social issues and ideologies of the GOP. So just think about it that way. When the parties become too liberal for this gay old man over here, that's the problem.
George Santos, you are always keeping it interesting. You're always keeping it entertaining. And I love that you always fight. And that's what I think everybody respects about you, as you have your Patriot inspired beer.
You know what? They should totally throw you a bone for this, because I don't get paid to drink this. I drink it because I like it.
I'm not going to argue with on that one. Representative George Santos, thank you so much for being on the show yet again. I look forward to talking to you in just a few minutes here on the David Pollack Show Space. and wherever everybody can participate in the conversation. Again, thank you so much for being on the show. I can't wait for you to keep coming back and updating us on how this campaign is going.
You bet. See you guys on X in a few minutes. Bye.
Thank you so much. Good night. All right, guys, that is all the time I have tonight. But I did promise you a big announcement. Well, at least my radio audience. I promised my radio audience a big announcement. And here it is. This show tonight is actually my last show here on the radio on The Answer Orlando, 94.9 FM, 950 AM. You will no longer hear me here on these airwaves, but I'm not going anywhere. You can continue to find me, David Pollack, and the David Pollack Show at the DCPatriot.com. You can find me on Rumble. You can find me on YouTube. You can find me on the website, streaming live at the DCPatriot.com. I'm not going anywhere. I'm just going to be streaming exclusively instead of being on the airwaves here. So please, if you want to hear more of this show, go to the DCPatriot.com. It will still be airing at the same time every week at 7 p.m. on Mondays. But what I need you to do right now, if you want to hear more of the David Pollack Show, what you need to do is go to Twitter and go to @ThePollack_Show. That's @The Pollack Show. And that is my handle there. Go and follow me. And then you will find out when I am live. You can actually watch me live right there on Twitter. And then don't forget, we continue to have our post-show Twitter spaces where you can interact with us live right there on Twitter. And if Twitter's not your thing, that's fine. Maybe you're on Facebook. You can watch us there. You have to go to The Pollack Show on Facebook. Or if you go to Rumble, if you're a Rumble user, just go and search David Pollack on Rumble. You'll see our show air there. You go to YouTube, look for the David Pollack Show, or you can go to the DCPatriot.com and just click Watch Our Shows, and you will find my show there as we're live as well. So, guys, don't worry. I'm not going anywhere. I'm just not going to be here on the radio. I appreciate so much everything, every opportunity this radio station has provided. This place is truly a family. There's some great shows here between the American Adversaries and Carl Jackson, all these great folks over here on 94.9 FM, 950 AM, The Answer Orlando. I will always be a listener. I will always be a fan, and I will always be grateful for the opportunity. We're moving on to bigger things and much more exciting interactive content, and I look forward for you joining me there, this radio audience. It has been a pleasure, and thank you to everybody over at that Salem station, 94.9 FM, 950, The Answer Orlando. I am forever indebted to you guys for everything. I will miss you tremendously. With that, I am out of time. Please join me right now on the Post David Pollack Show Twitter space, and we'll continue the conversation as we do every week. Until then,